of people I followed on Twitter. But I have to stand up and say, well, I don't think that's helped. And
no.
The more I think about it, I think Chris is right that, depending on how you want to use Twitter, I've never been one of the people who get followed back. I've always been on a sort of 1-to-3 ratio. I think I was probably even 1-to-4 at one point. And, I just said to myself this morning, I'm going to start cutting people out. I'll probably lose followers, but number of followers isn't important. It's what I get out of Twitter that's ultimately important. If I can get more out of Twitter following 5 people and having 20 people follow me, then maybe that's what I ought to do. So I'm just going to try and do it a little differently to how I used to. And I do have to say that Chris was the inspiration for it.
Well, I'd say I have to agree, because the fact of the matter is I'm following just over 200 people. I have kind of sanitized the list from time to time, but, I have allowed it to grow again. And what I'd say is with just over 200, it's almost impossible to read everyone's posts. So, yeah, and I am following within that list. So I've got the likes of, some major comedians and stuff that the likes of Dara O'Brien and
Chris Matchett.
And Chris Matchett, yeah. Yeah, but they tweet amusing stuff, and I find that particularly interesting. So I'll follow them for that reason. But there's probably, I don't know, 150 ITSM related people in my list. And I'd say it's even a struggle to follow that number of people.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how it pans out anyway. I better can the news, because we're only, I imagine, 6 minutes late. I think that's about 16 minutes worth of news. And let's get into the main chunk of the podcast. The reason for John being on the podcast, other than him being a very nice gentleman to know, is that we wanted to talk about back to ITSM, or giving back to the ITSM community. And I'd like to do 2 things. The first is to talk about a meeting that was held in London today with some rather influential IT service management people in attendance. Obviously, I wasn't there. But then also to jump back onto John and talk about his practitioner observations as to the feedback that we received on the IT service management practitioner survey. So, Barclay, do you want to talk about the meeting this afternoon? And Patrick, feel free to chip in, as is your gift.
Yeah, I mean, the meeting just kind of happened, really. I mean, I kind of kicked it off, but there was discussion around about what Back to ITSM is, and we need to flesh it out a little bit, turn it into something tangible.